Good morning, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Good Morning Minute podcast, where we start your day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of our special series in partnership with the Empower Her Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in helping women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God has designed for them. Our mission is simple but powerful, empowering life purpose, because we believe that when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, her community, and for the generations to come. So friends, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we dive into real stories, honest lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with our incredible guest. And our guest today is Anne. Hi, Anne. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Why don't you take just a few minutes and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, my name is Anne Utterback, and I'm here to share a little bit of my story in hopes to help you and how God brought me through a very difficult time in my life.
Hmm.
And so I can dive into that right now.
Okay, well, before we do, because I definitely want to get there, but before we do, let's just
Yep.
kind of start our conversation with a fun little icebreaker.
Whew.
Uh, so let me ask you, Anne, are you a person that likes the sunrise or sunset?
Wow, that's tough. That's an equal thing for me because one,
Okay.
I love the sun and I love that peaceful moment, like when I'm walking my dog and the sun is just coming
Mhm.
up. But then I also like to sit out on the patio and just watch it disappear as well into the evening. And so I'm a 50-50 on that one. They're both beautiful.
I would say I am too, because I understand like being so grateful in the morning to see that there's a new day up on the horizon, but then also to like a complete circle, right? You're ending your day with the sunset and just giving gratitude again for the opportunities that you were able to do within that day. I love it. All right. Well, let's get into the heart of our conversation. And I'm going to ask you, Anne, what was the defining moment of pain or challenge in your life, and how did it impact you?
The biggest, of course, we've all gone through trials, throughout our lives. But something hit me unexpectedly in August of 22 when my husband moved out after
Mm,
22 years of marriage, and he just did it unexpectedly. I had no idea. I
wow.
was away for the weekend, came home, and while I was away, he had been moving his things out. And so that was a huge gut punch of like really like, oh wow, this is happening.
Wow. Yeah, I can just imagine leaving and thinking, like the sun rising, right? Like this is a beautiful day. I'm, gonna go do what I've got planned, and then I'll be back. Um, wow, I don't even have words for that. So let's walk us through this journey, unpack it for us. What was it like? So you're returning back from your trip, you're
Mhm.
noticing that your husband is leaving. I mean, what was the aftermath of that for you?
He was at the house waiting for me
Hmm.
when I got there, and we have two boys, and so they were not at the house. They didn't want to be there when it happened because they knew it was happening, but I didn't because they were there while their father was moving out.
Wow. Okay.
And so I came home from this trip, and he didn't even say anything. I went into the bedroom and saw all his things gone. And I was like, are you leaving me? And he's like, well, yeah, I moved out. And so we sat and we talked, and he had this piece of paper, of things typed out, I think to keep I guess, his thoughts in order. And I couldn't tell you the whole conversation, obviously, because there was so much emotion of
Hmm.
like, what is happening? Because it's like, do you want a divorce? Like, wow. And he's like, no, no divorce, just we're separated. And so we talked, and he walked out the door. And I remember just so vividly sitting there, and I walked right into the kitchen and I poured out all my alcohol and threw it in the garbage. I promised myself to eat clean. to get rid of all the garbage because I knew in that moment that I was going to have to feel the emotion of what was happening.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I knew I also had to stay present for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I had to get rid of anything that I thought would distract me. I would only listen to worship music. I watched no television for
Mhm.
a month and just felt the emotion. But what's interesting with that, even though I was able to kind of walk through that,
Mhm.
the shame of it was like I didn't tell anyone. You know, a lot of people might have jumped on social media or called someone, but
Mhm.
I didn't. And I didn't tell anyone for days. Like I told no one.
Wow.
No family, no besties, nobody. And because I had to sit in it, but I think also it was shame. I was afraid of being judged
Mhm.
because here I thought I had this great marriage and it apparently wasn't. So
Mhm.
I hid in that shame, embarrassment, afraid of judgment for probably 6 months. And at the time, I worked for a church, and every January we do a week of prayer and fasting. And so we shut everything down and we just sit and fast, and we go through scripture and stuff. And God told me vividly that week. He said, "You are dearly loved.
Mhm.
Stop hiding, and you're going to be okay." And so I
Wow.
stood up that Thursday and I told 250 people that my husband had moved out in August of 22 because I
Wow.
felt God was like, it's okay. Like, you did nothing wrong. Stop living in shame. Stop hiding
Yeah.
and fear of judgment and let these people pray for you. Let these people come alongside you
Mhm.
and pray for your marriage and pray for the situation and help. And
Mhm.
so that was the turning point, the first real turning point of like finally getting out of that shame of what had happened.
Mhm. And that's, man, and that's so powerful because we often talk about trying, and I know as strong, independent women, we try to burden, we try to shoulder the burden ourselves. And, I don't know if it's pride, I don't know, or like you mentioned shame, guilt, those things, just the knowing of 20 years, 20 years of marriage, everything looked fine. And even you had no idea that this was coming. But the need for community in the time of our, most rock bottom moment is so vital. And, that's something that I discovered later as I went through my own adversity. But wow. So what was that like? So now you're bearing all in front of these these people. But I mean, you did it with a clear mind because you made a decision early on as you were accepting, you were accepting what was happening to you. You made this decision that you would not cloud your judgment. You would keep your heart open and free. You wanted to be present for your children. Like that decision helped bring clarity just to hear the Lord's voice, I feel, amongst this to understand his guiding words for you. So what was that like as you stepped into that?
Well, I was also fortunate that I went to a Christian counselor as well.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that she said to me that was so pivotal was live in your reality.
Wow.
And I think I had masked the reality of what my marriage had been
Mm.
because I was so, you're busy doing, you're
Mm-hmm.
busy. We do all the things. We work, we clean, we got the kids, we make sure they get to school, we
Yeah.
provide, all the woman things that we do. And we do. But I didn't actually sit and realize what had happened in our marriage relationship. And so when she said live in your reality, I was like, oof. Like I had to sit and like really go, okay, God, what is like my reality? And then
Mm.
how do I take ownership of my part? Because there was no way I was going to change my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a desire to do that because to be honest, I didn't know how to change him because I thought everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so God just pressed upon me. And when I first became a believer and started reading scripture, the verse that came to me was Psalm 139, 23 through 24. search my heart, know my anxious thoughts. And so I had already incorporated that in my life. And that verse became so pivotal during this time because it was like, oh God, you got to search my heart. It's like, what is my wrongdoing? What
Mm-hmm.
is my part to play so I can take ownership of my piece? Because I wanted to be a better version of me for everybody. Because I knew if I could be a better version of me and really truly align with God and His Word, and where I had missed, then I would be a better person for my husband, for my kids, for my coworker, everybody. And so that was key. And then the other key, I was blessed by friendship, that they sat in the mess with me and they didn't tell me what to do. They just let me be in the mess. I think of like Job, like his friends kept telling him, you should do this and you should do this, thinking
Yeah.
and giving him all this great advice when Job just needed them to sit in the mess and pray with and for him. And I
Yes.
was so blessed that I had a core group of friends that weren't like, you need to get a divorce, you need to live together,
Mm.
you need, all these things that never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I just feel chill bumps running up and down my arms because you're taught. You mentioned Job, and I did a Bible study on Job once, but it's so true because we, especially us fixers, people that don't want to see people hurting and want them to be, safe and back to their normal, quote unquote, normal self. We try to give like inspiring, messages or words of encouragement or, guidance in those moments. And it's so true because you really just need someone to sit in the mess of it and just go, wow, I'm here for you. What do you need to cry? Let's cry. Um, we need to pray. Let's pray. So but just to be joined with you in that moment of despair is so vital. And it was something I learned too, because I was listening to a friend speak about their situation, and I'm me being a fixer, like, well, you could do this, you could do that, and they turned to me and they were like, sometimes you just need to say, that sucks. I want to be, I'm there with you, and not give advice. And I said, you're right, you're right. My lesson to learn, but wow. Okay, so you're sitting in it. You're you're kind of walking through this and what is the Lord unveiling to you? Like help me see my truth because you also mentioned something that was really powerful. Help me also see my fault in this too because in a relationship, it takes two to make a relationship, but it also takes two to break one, right? And so let's talk about that.
Okay, so I just dove in. It was very introspectively what I was
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
And then I caught myself too, realizing some of the patterns of things I would say. And I was like, oh, that's not okay. And so my husband and I, we really wanted to work through things.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it took finally about a year after the separation, he finally agreed to counseling. Because I told him, I said, dude, this is never going to work until we have somebody else in the room because you and I, we are not communicating. Like this is not working. And so he agreed to that. And we did the whole nitty gritty, like everything. Like we
Hmm.
did the letters. We went from all 25 years of us being together. You know what I mean? We went through all of the
Yeah.
stuff and we just went through forgiveness.
Wow.
And I had forgiven him of so many things. And I truly was like, I'm done. I'm not holding on any grudges. It's like it's done. And it was interesting because like a month later, he brought up something that happened, I don't know, probably 15 years ago in our marriage where he had missed a Thanksgiving for
Mm.
work. And I was by myself with the boys. And he said about how, he just was mentioning that time. And I looked at him and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, remember when you went to the beach and blah, all he remembered the whole scenario. And I was like, oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that. And that was a realization of like, I'm really forgiving him. Like, and I told him that. It's like those things don't even like they don't weigh on me anymore because I forgave you. Like
Mm.
those I'm done. Like truly, like I just don't want to hold on to past hurts anymore because I realized when we hold on to past hurts,
Mm-hmm.
we take away our present and then we have no future. And
Mm-hmm.
and I just realized just sitting with God and going through scripture and everything else, how I had become calloused in certain areas where it
Mm-hmm.
hardened my heart from bitterness and everything. And he just showed me this beautiful picture of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And um, if I could kind of digress a past experience, when I was 18, I was raped
Oh,
in
wow.
college. And then 10 years later is when I became a believer after that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then God showed me that he loved that abuser as much as he loved me because he was his child, just like
Mm-hmm.
I was. And
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, he goes, I don't love what he did or how he treated you, but I love him too. And so he
Mm-hmm.
was like, you have to forgive. And so during this process of my marriage and the separation, I was like, oh, God was like, remember when you forgave him and you can't forgive your husband, whom you love.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you've got to step into what does forgiveness truly look like. And so that was really key for me to just kind of, in the burden and the peace I started to experience, that peace that transcends all understanding. It was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's what that is, because I wasn't carrying it around anymore. I was
Yeah.
truly allowing God to come in and heal all of those pieces and then just letting it go. And so that was huge.
Wow. And I mean, oh, so you're talking about forgiveness and well, we could go into that alone. Um, but some key points in that you mentioned how God also forgave, your perpetrator, the person that attacked you, um, because he too was a child of God. Like he didn't condone the behavior, but he definitely loved him
Mhm.
unconditionally, right? Uh, man, that too is so powerful. But then also to take that frame of reference and say, okay, now can you forgive your husband as I have done this person because you have love for your husband? So, man, that's so powerful and so moving. And for those that are in a place of understanding what God's telling someone at this point is so pivotal because it's almost a breaking point, right? You can either say yes or you can say no. It's that fork in the road, so to speak. Which direction are you going? And so the direction I'm assuming you went is forgiveness. So how did that work out for you and your husband?
It worked out. Well, we are now in the process of getting a divorce.
Okay.
It's been almost 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't want to move forward. He didn't want to move back in. He just he wasn't there yet.
Uh-huh.
And a year ago, after I told you we did the Christian counseling for almost a year, and we
Mm-hmm.
kind of hit a wall where he just didn't want to move forward. And so I actually went to the counselor by myself, and I just told him,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, what more can I do? And she handed me a piece of paper, and she says, I think you should read this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on biblical divorce. And I sat with that, and I told my husband, I said, I need like 40 days of no contact. Like, I gotta just sit with God,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta really like figure this out, because I felt like at the beginning I was holding on to my marriage so tightly, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is gonna work, this is gonna work. And finally, slowly, God was saying, release it, release your marriage to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was finally doing that. And so I did. I sat with God for 40 days and just prayed and read over the biblical divorce thing, sought the counsel, had people praying for me too, just like,
Yeah.
pray for me during this time. And God said, I give you permission. He didn't
Wow.
say do it. He didn't say don't do it. He just said, I give you permission. Like, I give you permission to divorce and end this marriage. And I told my husband afterwards, I told him, I said, God, he gave me permission. I said, God doesn't like divorce, but he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like our marriage.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
because we're not living together. We barely communicate. I mean, we didn't even talk every day. Like it was so like I didn't know half of what he was doing. And not that he wasn't doing anything wrong. I'm not saying that, you know what I mean? But it's like we just
Sure.
weren't at all together. And so I waited a whole nother year after that moment of like the
Mm-hmm.
permission to finally go, this is, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are currently pursuing a very amicable divorce. We don't have lawyers. We're not fighting. You know what I mean? We're just
Yeah.
walking and talking through it. And I told him, I said, maybe one day, we can entertain and get back together. But right now I just need to be like this. We can't do this anymore
Mm-hmm.
because this isn't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not helping me. It's not helping you. And so I think we just need
Yeah.
to
And so
call.
I hear a lot of healing and growth moments in the midst of the storm. I mean, where you kind of made the decision, like I'm going to be of clear mind, clear heart, clear body and soul to experience what I'm experiencing, to feel what I'm feeling, because you're not going to harbor feelings. Like you're not wanting to carry that with you. You truly are walking through the storm so that you could get to the other side of it. So Christian counseling, a lot of prayer. I mean, a woman that has strong, strong faith, because that was your rock. Apparently, that's what I hear you falling on. And just in a place to hear God's spirit and, counsel within the midst of the storm too. So I hear all of that healing and growth in there. So how did you get to a place to discover, what, this isn't all for nothing. There is a sense of purpose behind it. What is that awakening for you, or what is that like for you as you're discovering this?
Well, I wrote a book about it initially.
Hmm.
And so that was kind of my step into, and it was just the process, of what I did.
Hmm.
So that way I could help other people. Because when I was in it, I couldn't find any resources. And it was either a book about we reconciled and now our marriage is the best ever, or
Hmm.
we got a divorce and now my life being single is the best ever. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, but what do we do when we don't know,
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
didn't want, you can talk to any Christian or non-Christian and you'll get feedback on either one and they will pull you to one side or the other. So I didn't want to read any resources on this is going to reconcile or this is not, because I didn't want to skew my mind into one way or the other, because I truly wanted God's will in it. And so
Hmm.
that was part of my reasoning to really start bringing voice to it.
Hmm.
And also because, I mean, I sat in shame
Hmm.
for 6 months and from my closest friends. And during this whole process, my dad passed away. He never
Oh,
knew
wow.
that this happened. And I didn't
Hmm.
tell my mom until after the funeral.
Hmm.
And it had been a year and a half because I didn't want to burden them while all that was going on. And then
Hmm.
again, I think it was that underlying shame, like embarrassment of saying, well, I'm getting a divorce, or, my husband walked out on me. I mean, it's like, that was
Yeah.
so hard to say, and I think how many other people are sitting in the same space? How
Oh,
many other people are sitting at home right now struggling
yeah.
quietly? And we can't do that. We have to bring voice and to be like, you're not alone in this. You don't
Mm.
need to feel shame or guilt. It's like there are other people who have walked this, and let me help you walk it. I'm
Hmm.
not fighting. I'm not saying, yes, get a divorce. That's not my goal. My goal is to help you be a better version of you. And I
Hmm.
pray that your spouse is like, I agree. I want to do the same thing, because
Hmm.
that would be amazing. That's what we want.
Hmm.
I just didn't get that,
Yeah.
but that's okay. But can I help others walk the path of what it looks like to be separated? Whether you're separated in the sense of you're physically in different places, or you're under, you're still living together, but you feel disconnected, you
Mm-hmm.
feel on the verge of that, or you have separated, you're living, you're in separate rooms, all of those different
Mm-hmm.
scenarios. It's like we've got to come out of hiding and God, 'cause so I feel like God's like, I'll use your story, but you got to be vocal so you can help others. But he also said you've got to heal. Because like I wrote the book a while ago, I think I think I published it, self-published, I think it's September of 23.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are 2 years later because I needed more healing, more time with God of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because I don't want my words to taint somebody's potential relationship and healing. It needs to be bathed in, well, what is God telling you and how
Mm-hmm.
can you navigate this in a healthy way and not through control and manipulation.
Mm-hmm. And that's so powerful. And it kind of just prompts my next question, because you are right. You wrote a book for the in between, right? For that person that's out there just kind of struggling, like, what do I do in the storm? Like, what am I doing in the storm? What what advice would you give that person?
Well, get rid get rid of the distractions, number one.
Sure. Yeah.
Find a trusted person to talk to pray with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, just seriously, I go through all the weird things of like, do you wear your wedding ring?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have sex with your spouse? Because legally you're still married.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do during the holidays? How do you navigate your children? So I just walked through everything I dealt with
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you get counseling too. And above all, of course, pray. And in your prayer, a lot of times, I had a hard time praying for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, okay, God, he's yours, but still verbally pray through that as hard as it can be sometimes if you're angry or if they did something. And that's the other thing, it's funny when I would go back and I would read some of the reviews on my book and people were mad because I never talked about my actual marriage and my relationship as to why he left. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
you left out the most important part. Why'd he leave you? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's not what we focus on. Because
Right.
again, it's what is our piece, what is our part, and what is our relationship with
Mm-hmm.
God in that. And then just praying for your spouse, praying for your marriage, praying, but allowing God to do the work. And then it's so hard to not lose your gumption and your faith in that prayer when it's not coming
Yeah.
the way you want it to.
Yeah.
So that's another thing every expectation you have, get rid of it.
Mm.
The only expectation you need is that God is going to answer your prayer and he's going to bring you through it. Other than
Mm.
that, that was one thing I did. I got rid of every expectation on my husband, just gone.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that we're not talking about the reasons, like staying true to just the content of the book that you published, because here's where we put guilt and shame on upon ourselves, right? Because there you could disclose the reason as to whatever happened in the marriage to bring it to this point. But then why? So somebody could sit there and justify, and judge. No, we're not here to do that. We're here to walk through the storm. It doesn't matter what happened. It happened and it still impacts us, right? We still feel something. You do talk about the shame and guilt. You already know what's behind the story. You already know what's there. And then to have to face that by yourself in church, and then for God to give you a sense of peace to say, you know what, share it, go ahead and tell them this is where I'm at. We're living separated. And I need prayer because I need help. Like, and find a community in that to help walk through the storm with you. And then to write this book, to go through the healing process, because it was not like you ever gave up on your relationship. I mean, from what it sounds like, the both of you gave whatever energy to the healing process you were going to put in, and whatever has come from it has come from it. But at the end of it all, as an individual, as yourself, and you have found peace.
Mhm.
It looks like you look like you're in peace. Um, so you found peace, and really, there's a lesson to be learned. So as you're discovering all of this, when did you sense that purpose behind it? Like the book and everything else. Like when did you sense the purpose?
It slowly, I think it came in bits and pieces,
Uh-huh.
little pieces here, little pieces there. And it was really like you picture a pruning, like God
Mm-hmm.
was pruning me
Mm-hmm.
through all of it
Mm-hmm.
because I got yuck, I have
Yeah.
ugliness. And so he had to prune some of that because I love how you were talking about it, how we're not, I'm not talking about why he left. And the thing is that's my perspective
Mm-hmm.
and he
Yes.
has his. And
Yes.
so his
Mm-hmm.
reason is it, and so if I sit here and give the reason, it's not 100% accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And so that like you're saying that healing and so God just slowly like worked on me and he had to prune out some of the yuckiness, some of the blaming,
Mm-hmm.
some of the okay, your opinion is an opinion, it's not fact. That
Mm-hmm.
was a big one I had to get rid of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just all that perspective of like, well, no, this is how mine is right, yours is wrong. And it's like he just weaned all of that. And so slowly God just was like,
Mm.
step into this, step into this. And
Yeah.
I compare myself to Jonah sometimes because
Mm.
like he showed me he wanted me to talk about this a couple years ago
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't ready. And
Mm-hmm.
so I jumped back in the whale and I sat. And then I was like, okay, God, I'm ready. I'm ready to do your will. And then he spits me out on the same beach. And I'm like, well, this is where you want me to be. I don't want this beach. And so
Where are we
I'm like,
at?
I don't want to talk about separation and divorce and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh. So I would jump back in the whale and then I would
Mm-hmm.
sit for a while. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, God, okay, I'm ready. And he spits me out on the same beach. I'm like, got it. I have to
Yeah.
stop fighting him
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in his will for my life and give voice, have the courage to give voice where people need voice and understanding. And so now I truly feel and I had a conversation with my husband and told him this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm talking about. I want you to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so bringing just light to all of it,
Mm-hmm.
there's when you bring light to everything, there's no darkness. And so just doing everything I can to be upfront and honest
Mm-hmm.
in all of it
Mm-hmm.
is where and now before I couldn't do that and God's like you're ready now step in.
Mm. That's so powerful too. And so just to kind of back up, you talked about perspectives. There's two truths, right? Because there's yours and his. They're both this, you're both right. So and it's true. So that and that isn't the important. The importance is the lessons that are being learned, right? The healing process, the growth process. Like that's the meat right there. And to grow from all of it. Man, and also too, I've been through I've been through divorce myself. As a matter of fact, 3 times I've been through divorce myself. But it it really is understanding what separation's intent is because sometimes we do need to take a break. Now, how we do that to be in alignment with God and the respect and the contract of our marriage, you want to do it in a respectful manner. And you want to give forth effort to reconcile if that is at all possible. Now, some situations are going to deem to be reconciled, and you have to learn to just recognize that you can't do that, but you can also move forward. Without taking on the baggage of pain, hurt, and shame and guilt and all those things as well. Man, there's so much that you're saying, and I just hope people are like really listening and tuning in. I mean, because like we could talk forever just in the amount of stuff that you're giving us, like this wisdom that's coming from the conversation. So. I'm just going to move forward. I'm just going to move forward. What, so you've gone through this heavy storm. Now you've come to a decision. How has it shaped who you are today? How has all of this shaped the person, the woman that you are today?
I truly feel like I'm stepping into exactly what God has for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know exactly what it is or what it looks like, but I just have this like I've never had this amount of peace in
Mm-hmm.
my life. And this is the first time I live by myself and I'm not lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less lonely now than I was in my marriage. And again, that's God. That's
Uh-huh.
his like my alignment with him. And so it just when you can finally like just get in that space of and I was reading scripture the other day and it was in Matthew and it talks about being yoked and being yoked side by side with Jesus. And that just hit me. And so that's what I've been praying. It's like, God, how am I want to be yoked with you today, side by side. So I can't go right or left without you either pulling me back in line or going with me or leading me. It's like I am side by side with you, that true intimacy with God. And so now I just have this amazing amount of peace and understanding. And he's opened the doors to like new opportunity. And I'm finally being more like it's weird because it's like it's like a rebirth. It's like a new Anne, like Anne 2.0, Anne 1.0 is dead. 2.0, here we go.
Uh-huh.
And so
Wow.
it's exciting to see
Mm, I
what
bet.
is what gonna happen. Hmm.
Wow. That's amazing. You're right. Peace comes when you are in alignment with God because when He has given you the permission to do something or He has affirmed that this is what He's asking you to do, there is a sense of peace. There's no fear, there's no shame, there's no worry or guilt behind it at all. I mean, it's a true call to freedom, I guess, so to speak. Okay, well, as we start rounding out our conversation, Anne, I do want to ask you this question because I know that you're doing a lot for yourself and for others. So, if today were your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
That's a good question. That I was brave enough to use the voice God gave me to
Mhm.
help others and
Mhm.
not keep my life experiences to myself because people, women especially, you got to know you're not alone
Yeah,
and you are
yeah.
so loved.
Mm, beautiful. Beautifully said. And so, if someone was out there listening, and as we start closing out our conversation, and they're still trying to figure out what their life purpose is, what kind of truth or word of encouragement could you leave them today?
Oh, you just sit, open your mind to a new level of prayer with God.
Mm,
Truly just sit with him and write it out and be honest with what you're thinking. He already knows your hurts, your hangups. And I mean, I don't know how many times I've sat and I started praying and then I switched my prayer because I'm like, oh, I can't say that. And it's like, okay, but the thought is there, God already knows. So just be fully vulnerable with
mhm,
God and with yourself and start forgiving yourself
mhm,
for all of the stuff that you are embarrassed that you've done. Just let it go. God does not want that for you. He wants you to live in freedom. So just get your heart healed,
mhm,
become a better version of you so you can be a better version for others.
mhm. Amen. Yes, I think that is so true. Just to take what you've learned, I know that that has been his message to me, Jeremiah 29:11. You know, this is not something that he's doing to you, but definitely learn from it and grow from it and teach and be somebody else's inspiration, be the light in someone else's darkness for sure. Well, and if someone wanted to get in touch with you to get your book or whatever, how can they connect with you outside this podcast?
Well, I have a website. It's anneutters.com. And you can find my books on there. I've written two books and they're both on Amazon. So you can just see Anne Utterback. You can just put that in Amazon. And then I do coaching, but you can see all that on my website. And I would love to just walk alongside you and help guide you and show you all that God has for you because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. You can't go wrong when he's definitely guiding you for sure.
Yes.
Well, Anne, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. It's conversations like this that remind us that purpose isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, growing through the things that we go through, and that every step matters. Here on the Good Morning Minute and through the Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So wherever you are today, friend, remember your purpose is powerful and you're not walking alone. Until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, and keep walking boldly into the life that God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, and many blessings.